Hey, citizens, citizen of the future here. Welcome back to Lighthouse Report edition number 2. This one's a very special one. I wanted to create something that would inspire whoever's watching this to dig a little deeper into the regulated side of things, to take a really big step back and look at the world and say, who are the standard setting bodies that create the rules around the global monetary system. And this is from my years of research. I pieced some of these people together and some of these organizations and just some of these consortiums. And I wanted to shed some light because there's so much garbage out there, information that's based off hype, just junk. You got people saying XRP 589 and just straight up price hopium. And well, why don't people, instead of wasting time on that, dig into the real stuff? So I wanted to present the real stuff to give seeds to you to dig into. So going forward in this video here, I'm going to quickly just run through these tabs. These are some documents from some of the standard setting bodies, some of the consortiums that you can find on Google, and you can read and you can see, wow, they're talking about an industrial revolution using Industry 4.0 technology. They're building regulations for this technology. And the question that I want you guys to ask yourself when you're watching this is, one, why, if not, why haven't you heard of some of these consortiums or big players? Two, why isn't mainstream media talking about it? Three, after they build their framework, their regulations, what cryptocurrencies are going to be left standing? And think hard on that. And what I like to say is if it doesn't have utility, it doesn't have value. If your ecosystem isn't interoperable with traditional finance in some way and has a real world use case, I feel that the 99% of cryptos that don't actually, that are hype driven, that are promises, they're going to be evaporated. They're going to dry up. The liquidity is going to dry up. Okay, so I'm going to rip through things as fast as I can because there's a lot of information to cover. So sorry if it seems rushed. I just want to show you guys the direction of the G7 and the G20 point to these standard setting bodies. And as you can see, international standard setters. This is a real thing. And so scrap your moon boy. If you're one of those people that are all hyped up, put that aside and just look at the regulated side of the technology, what's being adapted. And I'm just going to quickly run over this. These are the key players, and some of them I didn't have space to write up because I've only got the 4 pages. So I can, if you guys like this breakdown and you want more topics to break down, give me some feedback. This is just an Easter egg. I want you guys to see this. I wrote a thread about this article itself. This is United Nations Center for Trade Facilitation and Electronic Business. That's just their logo. I thought it's cool because it looks like a network of networks. And just like this, network of trusted networks, you got all your nodes connected, interoperability through it. The IPCSA is partnered with the UN, the United Nations, UNICITRAL, United Nations Commission on International Trade Law. This is just a visual I created quickly just because I wanted to show you, us retail citizens are here and there's so much above us, and we just get caught in the divide between the 1% and because all we have telling us the news is mainstream media. They have an industry they're partaking in that they get the inside looks. So standard setting bodies are at the top: government, central banks, consortiums, corporations, and then us down there. So this is why, I'm trying to unite citizens by sharing regulated information that we could all research and build upon because it's been institutions versus us for many years. So going forward, this is just the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation. These are the big key players, and then these are some additional notable members that I pieced together through my research. And they're focusing on digitalizing global trade processes for the supply chain, trade finance industry. And this is just to show big players are going to be interoperating through global standards. So collaboration, interoperability, teamwork makes the dream work. So now I'm going to rip through a bunch of these documents from the standard setters. FSB, Financial Stability Board. Regulation, supervision and oversight of global stablecoin arrangements. Progress report on the implementation of the FSB high-level recommendations. So this was in October 7th, 2021. And here's a little write-up. Coordinates at the international level of the work of national financial authorities and international standard-setting bodies. So welcome to the top from a citizen of the future. So this is just a bunch of recommendations, who they're working with on global stable coins. I did find something interesting, a couple interesting things in here, which was, I just wanted to point out right here. The FSB, so this is in 2021, will continue to support the effective implementation of the FSB high-level recommendations and facilitate coordination among standard-setting bodies. Starting in January 2022 with an expected completion date of July 2023. So very interesting. The FSB will review in consultation with the relevant SSBs, standard-setting bodies, and international organizations. And the recommendations is the FSB report and how many gaps identified could be addressed by existing frameworks. So that's just something cool. BIS, Bank of International Settlements. This is a central bank for banks. They research on futuristic technology, mostly around payments infrastructure. They pump out a lot of research, and there's so much to learn in so little time. I say that all the time. I wish I could be reading this stuff 24/7 because it's so fascinating to see what's going on behind the scenes, and then to see what mainstream media is so distracted with. COVID-19, Ukraine war, monkeypox, stuff to keep you in the past, climate change. That is their stuff that they're pumping out to the masses. And while what's going on, there's a digital transformation. So BIS, interoperability for CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Working paper, banking in the shadow of Bitcoin, the institutional adoption of cryptocurrencies. May 2022, so they stay up to date with the BIS. It's just interesting to read this stuff. Some of it gets pretty techy and deep, but it's, skim through it. Take notes, right? So BIS working paper, distributed ledgers, and the governance of money. So they got very interesting university thesis papers of the smart, very, very smart people. DLT-based enhancement of cross-border payment efficiency, a legal and regulatory perspective. Okay, so let's hop into the FATF. Financial Action Task Force, and they are standard setters. And this is just, they talk about the basics of blockchain, what are virtual asset service providers. So this one is just a guidance paper on virtual currencies, which was in 2015. This is an FATF report on new technologies for anti-money laundering and CFT, which is counter-terrorist financing. So here they talk about DLT, artificial intelligence, APIs. They say, there's so many great pieces of information that you can learn about technology from these regulated documents because they wouldn't publish it if it wasn't true. Okay, so let's just quickly hop into the World Bank. I know I'm just ripping through this, but I just want to show you the titles and that they're writing about this. They're researching about it. They're building regulations for it. So it's about the ones with utility. It's not about the ones around the hype. It's what's going to last in 5 years compared to the next year. So this was an old document from the World Bank in 2017, and distributed ledger technology and blockchain. And there's actually some great things in this document, just visualizations for beginners, and it's cool to see how they're developing from beginning back then and to where we are now. Central bank digital currencies for cross-border payments, a review of current experiments and ideas. I reviewed this document, I think it was 2 weeks or something after it came out, and there's some very interesting concepts in here. The fact that they call XRP a global stablecoin, which I'm going to get into, Stable coins for cross-border payments, XRP and Stellar. Really weird that they're not stable coins, but they're calling them stable coins, and I'll get that near the end. But that's a good one. That's a good one. World Bank document. Let's see this one. Blockchain. Opportunities for private enterprises in emerging markets. January 19. And it's not about just researching what is happening right now. It's also good for anybody in this industry to look back and see how the narrative is changing between these big standard setters over time. So I'm always looking between certain time frames, certain years, just to see what papers were released and what was there. This one is May 2020, World Bank, Distributed Ledger Technology and Secure Transactions, Legal, Regulatory, and Technological Perspectives, Guide Notes Series. May 2018, World Bank Group, Cryptocurrencies and Blockchain. Okay, on to the next. World Trade Organization. This is a very good read. Blockchain and DLT in trade, where do we stand? This was in November 2020. And a lot of great pieces of information in this. There's the ITFA, BAFT, World of Account. A lot of great pieces on how technology is changing. World's Customs Organization, a role of advanced technologies in cross-border trade, a customs perspective. And if you stick around to the end, I go over the G7 and G20 stuff and just give you a really high point of view. So stick with me if you can here. So this is just showing different things going on in the supply chain and things with the World Trade Organization. Blockchain and Distributed Ledger Technology, World Trade Organization. I think this was in 2019, this one. But so you could see when it was going in the proof of concept phase, now where we're starting to get past here. The IMF. So much information, not enough time here. So let's see here. Digital technology, how it could transform the international monetary system. June 30th, 2021. From the Director of the IMF, Monetary and Capital Markets. Digitization is changing the way understanding of what currency is and how it operates. Damn, there's so much. This should be shed across all the news networks. So blockchain consensus mechanisms, a primer for supervisors. So supervisors across the globe got this. I also did a really deep dive. It's on my YouTube. You'll see it. And there's a thread as well that breaks this down. But they compare different consensus mechanisms for different blockchain ecosystems. Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, XLM, delegated proof of stake. So that'd be like XDC. Oh, the future of money, gearing up for central bank digital currencies, February 9th, 2022. The IMF. Distributed ledger technology experiments in payments and settlements. This was in 2020. Regulation of crypto assets. This was in 2020. There's just so much, man. So there's all this. Why would they be putting this much effort into something that isn't transforming the future? G7 working group on stablecoins, investing the impact of global stablecoins. This was in 2019 with the IMF, CMPI. I'll be writing about them in the next one. If you guys like this format, the G7, that's the IMF. So the interesting part to finish off this video, sorry it's taken 20 minutes. Guys, I'm just trying to piece it together the best I can just to show you there's a lot more out there than what we are being told and what we are even seeing in our blockchain communities. So first of all, G20. I want to show you this picture from the G20. Fourth Industrial Revolution. We are going through the whole 99% of the population is sleeping because where do they get this news? Nobody tells them about it. Nobody throws it in their face. Well, I am. And that's what I'm trying to do, is to show you guys that there's something happening. Not financial advice, though. Okay, so the one thing I want to point out here is working together to enhance cross-border payments, speech by Victoria Clement. And this was a keynote presentation of the Central Bank Payments Conference in November 2021. and she's the head of banking, payments, and innovation for the Bank of England. They talk about how cash withdrawals declined by 40%, contactless transactions increased 60%. They're recently going through innovative developments in core infrastructures. So listen to the terminology. Cross-border payments are significant in terms both their value and volume, expected to total an astonishing $250 trillion by 2027. $250 trillion. Then think about the ecosystems that are helping fix the cross-border payment ecosystem. Let's see. So they're complaining about, despite their importance of cross-border payments, they still suffer from long-standing challenges of high cost, low speed, limited access, and insufficient transparency. It can still take as long as 10 days to transfer money from one country to another and can cost up to 10% of the transfer's value. The frictions underlying cross-border payments have been around for many years. Excitingly, the G20 has made enhancing cross-border payments a priority, and in 2020 it asked the Financial Stability Board, coordinating with the Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructures, CPMI, and other standard-setting bodies to develop a roadmap to enhance cross-border payments. Okay, this roadmap, the first step was the FSB report assessing the existing arrangements, frictions, and challenges. The CPMI then set out the building blocks that would be the instrumental in addressing the challenges. There's 5 focus areas, and that's to commit to a joint public and private sector vision to enhance cross-border payments, to coordinate on regulatory, supervisory, and oversight frameworks, to improve existing payment infrastructures and arrangements to supply the requirements of the cross-border payments market and CBDCs. So the 19 building blocks formed the bias of the roadmap published by the FSB in October 2020. You guys can find this. Google the 19 building blocks of FSB and you can go through all the building blocks and see what it's all about. It's an ambitious but achievable high-level plan that sets out the timelines, actions, and actors required to progress each building block. To help drive progress, each building block is owned or co-owned by the CPMI, FSB, FATF, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, or Bank of International Settlements Innovation Hub. The CPMI owns or co-owns 11 of these building blocks. This is where I found that snippet that I put in the visual. The G7 finance ministers and central banks governors, Petersburg Communique. So this was a discussion between the big boys. G7 finance ministers, central bank governors met on the Petersburg on 18 to the 20th of May 2022. Joined by the heads of International Monetary Fund, the World Bank Group, OECD, which is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and the Financial Stability Board. So they go to talk about supporting Ukraine. They publish this, and this is what's interesting, okay? And macroeconomic stability, blah, 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 global health, didn't find it. Digitalization. Holy smokes, here we go. This is my cup of tea. We reiterate our strong political commitment to the timely and effective implementation of the OECD G20 Inclusive Framework two-pillar solution to address the tax challenges arising from globalization and the digitalization of the economy with a view to bringing the new rules into effect at global level. We will provide support to developing countries for the implementation of this historic agreement. We welcome the report of the OECD Secretary on Tax Cooperation for the 21st Century and ask the OECD to continue its work in this area. So the OECD is working on a tax plan to solve at a global level. Digital innovation in payments is a key driver of economic progress and development, notably through faster, cheaper, more transparent, and more inclusive cross-border payments. We emphasize the important work being conducted through the G20 roadmap for enhancing cross-border payments. We highlight the opportunities and implications of a CBDC and their potential role in future payment transactions. We recall the public policy principles for retail CBDCs agreed in October 2021 and reiterate that any CBDC should be grounded in transparency, the rule of law, sound economic governance, cybersecurity, and data protection. We encourage jurisdictions exploring CBDCs to examine the international dimensions of CBDCs, in particular their cross-border use. CBDCs with cross-border functionality may have the potential to spur innovation and open up new ways to meet users' demands for more efficient international payments, but continued interoperable cooperation will be important to understanding and minimizing any negative spillovers to the international monetary and financial system. The G7 supports the work by the Financial Stability Board to monitor and address financial stability risks arising from all forms of crypto assets and welcomes the increasing global cooperation to address regulatory issues associated with the use of cryptocurrencies or crypto assets, including in cross-border payments. In the light of the recent turmoil in the crypto asset market, the G7 urges the FSB, in close coordination with international standard setters, to advance the swift development and implementation of consistent and comprehensive regulation of crypto asset issuers and service providers, with a view to holding crypto assets, including stablecoins, to the same standards as the rest of the financial system. Do you hear how powerful that phrasing is? To get everyone working together to implement consistent and comprehensive regulation of crypto assets, issuers, and service providers, and holding crypto assets and stable coins to the same standards as the rest of the financial system. This is what I'm talking about, regulations, citizens. So we need to pay attention. You need to be careful what you invest in, because there's going to be an exodus of the crypto markets, a shitcoin shutdown. So be very careful, or you will lose a lot of money. In particular, the G7 calls for rapid implementation of the FATF's travel rule and stronger disclosure and regulatory reporting, for instances as regards as reserve asset backing stable coins. So Tether, you're in shit. You're going to get screwed here. It's coming. We reaffirm that no global stablecoin project should begin operation until adequately addresses relevant legal, regulatory, and oversight requirements through appropriate design and by adhering to applicable standards. The G7 remains committed to high regulatory standards for global stablecoins, following the principle of the same activity, the same risk, and the same regulation. And this is what I wanted to leave with you with. So very interesting. That is the Easter egg. That's just an Easter egg that I put in there. And yeah, so I hope you guys got something out of this. Sorry for it being long again. Try and make it short, but there's just so much information that I come across in my research that I want to pass on to you guys and hope it helps. So please leave some feedback. Let me know how I can improve, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, what you liked, and so I can improve, because if I don't know what you guys like and don't like, I can't improve. So thank you, citizens, citizen of the future out, and keep researching, keep learning, and keep growing. Cheers.